Lacrosse community. My name's Ryan Berns. I'm the founder of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. It's our mission to empower all those that love lacrosse, to recognize the skills you gain from the sport, to ultimately live your best life possible. Today, we're so fortunate to be joined by head coach of Chosen Lacrosse, Dallas Pulliam, as he shares about their journey with lacrosse. Dallas ended up playing at Lafayette College, and he's going to share a little bit more about his whole experience. Dallas, thank you so much for joining us today. For those in our community that aren't quite aware of your story, can you share with us how you got involved in lacrosse in the first place?
Yeah, sure, Ryan. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the time today. From Southeast Pennsylvania originally, so I grew up, I guess around middle school, started being a little exposed to the sport. Thought it was great, thought it was cool. My dad ran the local Little League for baseball. So branching off from him and getting away from baseball was took a little longer than I had wanted. But by the time I was 7th, 8th grade, I had a couple of sticks. And whenever my dad would say, "You want to go have a catch?" I'd say, "Yeah, you bring your mitt, I'll bring my stick, and we'll go out and have a catch with that." So that's one thing that is always very near and dear to my heart is when I see that at all ages, if a dad's outside having a catch with his kid and using a glove and he's using a stick, that always brings a nice memory to me. So went to Radnor High School, who actually just won PA state champions for boys and girls this past year. So went to Radnor High School, played all 4 years in high school. Went to Lafayette College, played in college, did well there, had fun. It was a great time. After college, coached for a year at Kenyon College in Ohio, great Division III school, good league, had a good time doing that. And then ended up in California, like most 20-somethings do, and bounced around a few different jobs and ended up coaching again, a couple local high school teams, and then eventually moved back to PA with my family and met the wife, made the family out in California. Brought everybody back to Pennsylvania. My son was in 3rd grade. My daughter was in 5th grade. She had kind of showed us early on that she wasn't really interested in the team sports. So my son would always, she played soccer, she played flag football, she played all that stuff. And she'd always end up kind of on the sideline watching, talking to my mom, and my son kept trying to run out on the field to play with her friends. So we kind of knew he was into the team sports. We moved back to Pennsylvania. He's in 3rd grade. And found a local rec group, Collegeville Cougars, and signed him up for that. And they needed coaches, so I told him I've coached before, I'd played before, I'd love to be able to coach. And so coached these 9-year-old kids. We went through the season. We actually ended up being undefeated. We were like 22-0-1. We had one tie, which made the kids all mad, but we went undefeated, and it was a real great group of kids, great families that were involved with the team as well. And being, I don't know, like 45 minutes to an hour northeast of Philadelphia. I mean, obviously, I'm sure your listeners, your viewers know the Southeast Pennsylvania, there's a lot of really good club teams, but they're kind of based more down in Philly. We're a little bit out of that area. So for at least 9 years ago, for a good travel team, you'd have to go down to Philly. You'd have to play for, the NXT was just getting started. There's Freedom, there's Mesa, there's Dukes, those teams that are all still very strong today. But there wasn't a whole lot of local options. So my thought was, I sent out an email to the parents of the team, and I just said, "Hey, would anybody be interested in kind of keeping this team going? We obviously did pretty well, keeping this team going for the summer. And go to a couple of tournaments and kind of see how it goes." All the parents, but I think one said yes. And we ended up bringing a couple of the other like all-star kids over because our team did so well. I got to help out with the all-star team, so we brought some other all-stars over. And then that core group of kids actually stayed with the team from 3rd grade until now. They're all in 12th grade and committing to colleges. And yeah, it's been really great as this team has grown. We actually ended this past season because travel ends the summer between junior and senior year, and we finished ranked 10th in the state, 90th in the country, and we're just a one year team, just a 22 team, nobody else, no other teams, and yeah, and did really well. So it was fun, and the kids had a great time, and had a few kids commit to some time Division III schools. We didn't have any kids that wanted to play D1. They all liked the D3, the more laid back thing. But yeah, it's very proud moments. I think it's probably the best thing I've done in my lacrosse life is coaching this team. It's been a great experience, and the families we have were fantastic. And the name, it's based in Collegeville, and Chosen Lacrosse Club is what we're called. And I was just trying to think, when I asked all these kids, look, do you want to try this travel lacrosse thing, when they're all in third grade? And so I was trying to think of a name. I'm like, Collegeville starts with a C. I'm not sure. I said, I'm choosing these kids, so why don't we just go with the chosen kids? I chose them, so Chosen Lacrosse Club. And it went pretty well. It stuck. And as part of that, I never had tryouts. There's a lot of the clubs that, charge you $25-$50, and 200 kids come down to the tryouts. I never wanted to do anything like that. And plus I'm the only coach, so I don't really have time to run a 200 kid tryout over the weekend to pick kids for the team. And because I had kind of committed to these kids when they were in third grade, I was like, look, this is the team. You're on this team as long as you want to be here, and we'll bring on some other guys as they get older. And so they were always chosen for the team, and I'd send out emails every year and be like, hey, look, we don't have tryouts based on you and your family. And I'd always make sure that they knew the family was part of it too. The mom, the dad, the brothers and sisters were all part of this team. So we needed them to behave like they were part of the chosen team as well on the sidelines. And one of the greatest things, you asked about pinnacles of my lacrosse career. One of the pinnacle moments is there's a college in Pennsylvania called King's College. One of my kids actually committed to King's, and I got an email from the King's College coach, and it was one of the greatest emails I've ever had. He said something to the line. I still have it saved. It's like framed up in the house, and what it says is like, watching your team play and listening to your parents on the sideline, he said, is the most refreshing thing I've seen. He's like, and I've been recruiting for whatever, 15 years, 20 years. I forget what his time frame was, so forgive me if I've got that wrong. But watching your team play, listening to your fans cheer, supporting both your team and the opposition, he goes, it's so refreshing. We wish we had more teams like that out there. And yeah, so that was probably one of the best parts of doing this is seeing that and the impact that we have, not only on these kids, but the image we're portraying. And I always tell the kids is like, look, social media today, anybody can track you down and be like, hey, that kid's on the chosen team. Those kids are, depending on what you're doing, either great kids or troublemakers. So somebody's always watching, and we made sure the kids knew that, and it really went well. It's been a great ride for sure.
Wow. Dallas, being able to commit to these boys at such a young age and say, hey, we're going to do this over and over again, I have to imagine is just so meaningful. You build a community up and you find the right families that fit the mold or the brand that you're trying to uphold, because one bad apple will make everyone else rotten, and that upholds the brand. And it seems like you guys have done a fantastic job of doing that and have been rewarded in that respect from other coaches recognizing that. In my mind, that's a lot of leadership. That's having a vision and bringing people all in line with that journey. What does leadership mean to you?
For me, it's always been, I was captain of my high school team. I was captain of the college team, and I was always kind of a lead from the front, follow me, we're going this way kind of thing. I was never really a yeller. I never yelled at the kids. I'd encourage them and then bring them off to the side and say, hey, why don't we try this a little differently? So I think leadership, you need to be approachable, but you also have to be a good example. Don't get me wrong, I'd get into it with the refs every once in a while, but nobody's perfect. But I think leading by example is one way that I've always tried to instill that in the kids as well. And I think they've done a good job with that. I mean, they're high school kids now, so there's always their share of trash talking and but it's still a lacrosse field, stuff happens. But yeah, all great young men, and very proud of each and every one of them for sure.
Awesome, Dallas. I think being able to set a good example is so important. Having a role model that they can look to year after year after year after year. There's consistency in that. And I think that's where we see success, is when you do the little things over and over and over and over again. Eventually, you're going to get better at those little things. The results are going to be better. And that's where you can be a top 10 club in the state, top 90 in the US, which is unbelievable. Really big props for you for that. Leadership can be hard, though. And sometimes you have to make decisions or do things that go against the grain of the team or the community you're part of. Is there an example you could share with us when you maybe had to make a decision that seemed difficult at the time, but you're so glad you made it afterwards?
It might be an on-field decision that I was reminded of. I actually got a phone call 2 days after it happened from a family, and we were playing another team, and the coaches were really chirpy to the kids, and started getting in. I started kind of defending some of the kids, and so they went after me, chirping, yelling, saying some stuff they probably shouldn't be saying. And I think the kids were in like 6th grade, so it was kind of ridiculous. And the kids, I mean, obviously could all hear it, and they're standing there. And where I live now in Collegeville, it's a very big football town. There's the football coaches that yell. There's the fans that are very enthusiastic, and so these kids are used to hearing it from the fans, from the coaches, and everything. And but what these guys were doing wasn't on par with that. It was a bit out of line. It was getting in there with the refs, saying stuff to me, and approaching our sideline, just aggressive things, not needed. And a guy came over, and I said, "Hey, why don't you give it a rest?" And then he said something back, and I said, "But I really like your socks with your sandals," and just kind of threw that at him. And I think it kind of confused him, like, what? And so it kind of stopped, because I de-escalated it, and just kind of made a joke, and then that was kind of, they kind of stopped for a little bit. And a couple of days later, one of the parents called me up and said, "Hey, Brody was telling us what was going on the sideline, and we just want to share with you that he was so impressed with the way you handled the parents and the coaches on the other team that he said something to us about it. Like, he mentioned it to his parents. Like, hey, you should have heard Coach. Like, he was just calm and kind of made a joke, and it just kind of relaxed everything." So I think that was a hard decision, because growing up outside of Philadelphia, you want to, let's start arguing. Let's do this thing. But it was, let's just be calm. There's kids here. Everyone's let's make the harder decision, be the bigger person, and just kind of de-escalate. And it was rewarding, because a couple of days later, I got that phone call, and it was a good day. It was a good week for sure.
Those are always the really interesting moments. You may not think that they're big at the time.
Yeah,
but this is something that's part of Brody's development moving forward, of when it's a high pressure situation, a cooler head prevails, a polite head prevails. A little bit of humor goes a long way to de-escalate those situations, so that you can do what's necessary. And we see it time and time again, whatever level we're coaching, whether it's 6th graders or all the way up to college, there can be high spirits and a lot of enthusiasm. And even in the professional world, sometimes those emotions get a little riled up. So being able to take a step back and be able to identify what situation we're really in is huge. And I think that's one of the favorite things I've been learning about you, Dallas, is being able to make an impact in your players' lives and teach them some of these life lessons. Is there anything that you do intentionally, or can you share a little bit more with us, the culture and how you cultivate creating fantastic young men?
Creating the fantastic young men, that goes to their families. I mean, the families that we have as part of the team, they're the reason these young men are what they are today. I just was the beneficiary of being able to put them all together and have them play a sport. But for them, it was for the way I always taught lacrosse is I want all the kids to be able to do everything. Defenders, I want them to, cover you as soon as you get off the bus and then score more goals and then the attack when you're recovering, just kind of fun stuff like that. But always make it fun. I mean, I know everybody growing up has played different sports and there's some sports that were fun, some coaches that allowed more fun than others. I'd always try to make it fun. From third grade, the kid would run down the field and he'd, try to shoot across his body. And I'd say, hey, Daniel, try to put it behind your back. Oh, okay. And he's fourth grade. So I got kids trying to, if it's in the right place. And they'd always say, hey, coach, can I do it behind the back? I said, if you have the courage to do behind the back when you're down by 1, then you can have the courage to do it when you're up by 5. I said, so you don't do it behind the back to rub it in because you're winning by 8. And hey, let's look, I'm being fancy now because we're winning by 8. And if I miss, it's no big deal. But I told my kids, I want you to have the guts to, if it's a tie game and 10 seconds left and you're in the right place, go for it. But it's not to rub it in. It's because it's the right play. So doing the right play at the right time and making sure it's always fun. We'd play small-sided games. We'd have shooting contests at the end of the year, and the goalies would shoot too. So who fastest shot competitions, and the goalies would be out there with their stick, their big stick. And so I try to get everybody to make the right play, but make sure they're having fun. That was one of the things. And one of the compliments I got from the kids, they put this book together for me at the end of the summer, and a lot of the comments, right, the practices were always fun, but but they make the right plays. They know moving up the field. It's a lot of what you see in the club ball is that hero ball. That one kid is like, oh yeah, this kid's amazing, he's going to go to Virginia, watch him run through all these 18 players. It's like, well, yeah, of course he can do that. And when he's at Virginia, he's going to be able to run through the first kid, draw the slide, and he's got to make that pass to the open guy on the crease. So it's about making the right play. So I've tried to instill that in them from the beginning and all through high school. And I think it's worked. I mean, we've got some real good programs. I mean, Christopher Newport, Capital. My son's going to SUNY Cortland, which is another pinnacle of my lacrosse life, is being able to coach my son for 9 years and him not be sick of me and not be burnt out on the sport, and then have a college like SUNY Cortland come after him and be like, hey, we'd like you to come be our face-off guy. And I mean, they ranked 12th in the country preseason. So he's excited about that. I'm excited about it. And all these kids, I mean, it's crazy to say, but I've known these kids like more than half their lives at this point. And so everybody asked me, like, what are you going to do now that you're not coaching? And I say, well, next year I'm going to be driving around and watching a lot of lacrosse games, because I've got to go to Ohio to watch Capital. I've got to go to New York to watch Cortland. I got to go over to Newman, affiliate to watch Newman. I'll be driving all over the place trying to watch these kids play.
And that's the neatest part, I think, about coaching, is being able to be a part of these kids' lives, see them accomplish their goals, empower them to accomplish their goals. Is there anything that you were preaching to the kids to allow them to play in college? Or I know you mentioned just being able to recognize the right plays. That's always so important. But I think a lot of our families, they've got kids that are maybe middle school, start of high school, trying to think of, how do I get to college? And you've done such a great job of empowering kids to get there. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
There is always going to be a school that you can play for in college. Any level, all levels. There's, like I said, none of the kids that I coached wanted to play Division I. There were some Division I teams sniffing around. I mean, but they made that decision to play Division III, and there are new teams forming every single year. There's new programs. There's smaller teams that, are entering into a new league. And then there are powerhouses like Cortland and a new powerhouse like Christopher Newport. They're all of a sudden they're ranked 4th. They're awesome now. So there will be, if your kid wants to play in college, there will be a school that he can play at or she can play at, without a doubt. There's enough teams nowadays, any level. It'll just depend on how committed they want to be and what their ceiling is on how and where and why they want to play in college. It's up to them. I think about half of my kids don't want to play in college at all. They just wanted to play this club and have a great time. And, they're going to one kid's going to Alabama, the other kid's going to Clemson, one kid's going to like Penn State Business School. So all fantastic schools. And they're like, yeah, maybe I'll play club. But, you know, this was, I did this travel team and it was fun. And one of the other things about the team is we kept it cheap. I think our cost was, you know, less than 50% of most of the schools or most of the other travel programs, because I wasn't taking a salary. Only thing I ever wanted from them was like a free jacket or a free t-shirt or something like that. That was my pay. So, I'd always use, the Collegeville Cougars had an agreement with the local Warriors football. And since I helped the Cougars for several years, I was also able to use their field. So it was very rare that we had to pay rentals for fields. We'd go around and we'd find local parks, and I'd say 90% of our practices from third grade till they graduated for high school, 90% of the practices, we had no lines on the field. We would just bring the goals ourselves and put it in the middle of a field and practice, or park and practice. So we were the cheap alternative. But yeah, so I grew up and parents thought I was supposed to play soccer in college. I'd played soccer my whole life. And so lacrosse was kind of a late love. When I told them I want to play lacrosse in college, they were like, sure you do. You know, we'll see about that. And so, you know, you asked for a goal for Christmas, you asked for, you know, a wall ball thing, or actually when I was younger, it was just, you just go find a wall, but, you know, you ask for an extra stick in case one breaks in the winter when you're shooting. And so my parents weren't totally sold on the idea of me playing in college. So the expense of lacrosse, because it is an expensive sport, and I was in public school. So when I first started playing, the elbow pads I had were the public school rentals, you know, so I had to duct tape them on my arm because they were all stretched out and old. And then I remember between my, I guess winter and, in the winter break, we got together and the coach was cutting out the old nets. And so I came over, and, you know, they're all ripped up and everything. And I went over and I said, hey, could I have that? And he goes, you want the old net? I said, yes, I do. And so I put it in my bag and I bring it home. And I built a goal in my backyard with old 2x4s and pieces of wood, and had it all propped up, and then hammered the net into the goal. So your desire when it comes to lacrosse to play at the next level will take you as far as you want it to. When I started playing, I was like, look, I want to play Division I. This is what I want to do. And so I worked hard to get there. When I first started playing, I stunk. I mean, the first year for everybody at lacrosse is really hard because you can't catch yet. You're not exactly sure where you're supposed to go. The lines on the field are weird. So it's just that once you get that catching and throwing, it gets to be more fun. So yeah, the first time I think the first shot I took on goal, I dropped out the back of my stick and then flailed it, and just like, did I score? Like, where's the ball? And it's behind me, and the defender's picking up and going the other way. So I was embarrassed at that. And so I kind of made the decision, like, look, I'm going to work hard and try to be as good as I can be at this sport. And I found ways to do it. There's a couple of kids that I told, you know, like to keep going with the inexpensive way to work at this sport is, you know, shooting practice. Every park, maybe not every park, but almost every park in the country has a tall fence on it, right? Or a backstop for baseball or softball. I used to take a piece of string, you know, like hockey lace string, like you have in a stick, like you have in a lacrosse stick, and I'd tie it to the fence, and I'd have a bunch of balls, and I'd just shoot at the string to try to hit the string, and I wouldn't let myself leave until I hit it like 10 times in a row. And so instead of a goal, I told a couple of the kids this, and a couple of the dads this, is like, instead of a goal, it was 3 balls and a piece of string. So if you've got 3 balls and a piece of string, you can get as good as you want at this sport. It's just and playing at any level. You know, you can get good at high school, you can get good enough in high school and play, and you can go be the big fish in the little pond, or the big fish in the big pond, or just play club at Alabama, like some of my kids. You know, just do it for fun. Like if you want to play in college, there will be a team that wants you. 100%.
Oh, Dallas, thank you so much for sharing that perspective, because I think that's something that's so often overlooked. Not only that you can play college lacrosse in so many different avenues. I'm a big proponent of the club because in Arizona, that was a great opportunity for me to play at Arizona State University. It was phenomenal. But it's your desire at the end of the day that allows you to accomplish whatever goals you have. And it doesn't take much. The idea of just practicing your shot with a piece of string shows you that it's just small little details or small little facets that allow you to grow, gain confidence, and get better and better. And there's accountability with that as well, in terms of saying, I can't leave until I hit this 10 in a row. That makes sure that things actually happen and that you get better and you're able to measure it in some sort of way. Unfortunately, I know we're wrapping up on time right now, but Dallas, do you have any last thoughts on lacrosse or leadership that you can share with us today?
I think I've talked enough today, but lacrosse has definitely changed my life for the better. Made me a better husband, better father, better leader. And I tell the kids all the time that not a day goes by that I don't miss playing. But I'm pretty sure not a day is going to go by that I don't miss coaching the same group of kids, because it's been a great experience. Life-changing for both me and I hope for them.
Yeah, I could so see that, Dallas, and best of luck with all the kids moving forward. I think it's going to be a new part of the journey,
Definitely.
being able to watch them in college and them experiencing different coaches and different experiences. And I can imagine you're going to get quite a few phone calls back home trying to ask for advice and letting them share the great experiences that they're having and cherish that with you. So thanks so much for sharing with our community. We're so excited to have you part of it now, Dallas. You're really an amazing guy. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks a lot for your time.